So welcome back to the show. So Joe Biden, I think, in my personal opinion, and most other progressive hosts' opinions, and just people on the left in general, had said that his polling was eventually going to fall off, and he wasn't going to stay as popular as he was before that. And we're already starting to see evidence that confirms this theory. So, due to things such as just him plagiarizing other people's environmental plans, to him having all of his terrible voting records come back up to bite him now, and everybody bringing back his opposition to busing, the crime bill, now his continued support of the Hyde Amendment as well, his support for the war in Iraq. So you have a lot of not so great things there for Joe Biden. So here is a new CNN poll, and they end up, this article itself is from The Hill though. So support for former Vice President Joe Biden has faded since the launch of his 2020 presidential campaign, according to a new CNN poll. The survey released early Tuesday shows Biden still leads the crowded pack of Democrats vying for the party's nomination with 32% support. However, his support is now 7 points lower than it was in April, or than it was in his April CNN poll shortly after his formal entry into the race, when 39% said that they supported him. Senator Bernie Sanders had 18% support in the new poll for second place, followed by Senator Kamala Harris with 8% and Elizabeth Warren with 7%. Pete Buttigieg and Texas Rep. Beto O'Rourke both received 5% support according to the poll. So so that just illustrates exactly what we said was going to happen. And I'm not trying to take any credit for that. I think it was fairly obvious that Joe Biden was basically running off of nostalgia and name recognition at the beginning. And everybody was like, oh, it would be great to go back to the harmonious old days of Obama and Biden. And they just kind of had it linked to something positive in their head. And then they linked this Trump presidency to something disgusting and negative so much that they would just yearn to get back to the Joe Biden, Obama, everybody's polite, everybody's cordial type of atmosphere again. But what are they being polite and cordial about? Are they passing policies that are in your favor? Are they compromising too much with Republicans? Are they advocating for cutting social programs like Social Security? Have they done that in the past? Things of that nature. That's all starting to come back up now. Have they drafted bills that had a terrible effect in terms of our prison population and overwhelmingly affected African American populations as well in terms of the crime bill? So you have things in that nature where, people just see it and they're like, all right, I like the idea of Joe Biden. I like the sound of it, but now it's sounding less and less exciting. And I think after his launch as well, you saw his launch, I'm sure everybody did. It wasn't nearly as energetic or crowded or overwhelming as I think some people expected it to be. I didn't expect it to be that way. But I think maybe some of the people that are more just casual Democratic voters saw those poll numbers and they think, oh, well, Joe Biden has a ton of energy behind him. People are just rallying behind Joe Biden in the Democratic Party. He's almost at 40% support. But then they see that and they see the speech and they see all of these negative reports continuously coming out about him, and I think they finally realized, maybe Joe Biden isn't the best choice. And even if you're some kind of centrist Democrat supporter, then you probably look at somebody like Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg, maybe even Beto O'Rourke. I mean, I think he's kind of lost his luster as well. But you start to look at those people and say, some that are more left-leaning, but still kind of have that weird resentment towards Bernie Sanders because of 2016 are now going towards Elizabeth Warren. So you have, I think, a lot of people saying, you know what, maybe there's somebody with some more energy behind them that has some better ideas and hasn't made as many mistakes in the past as Joe Biden. And the good thing about that as well is that Bernie Sanders is not going to have that happen because he doesn't have all of those past mistakes. He was correct well ahead of his time on most major issues. So you don't have all of this past dirt coming up on Bernie Sanders in the same way that you do with Joe Biden. Joe Biden did plenty of things wrong throughout his career. And he represented corporations over the people for about half of his career. So, I mean, he had some really really negative stuff. His record is worse than Hillary Clinton's. And you just can't possibly see that Joe Biden would actually make it through this. I don't see him making it through this. I think even when you saw what happened to John Delaney and people like John Hickenlooper at that California Democratic Convention, you see them getting booed for saying they don't want anything that's considered socialism. Mainly they mean like Medicare for all, free college, stuff of that nature. But they're getting booed on stage at the California Democratic Convention. So there is a wave of people that want something that's social democratic policy-wise. That's why Elizabeth Warren has been garnering more support. That's why Bernie Sanders still is the second leading candidate in the entire race. And that's why even people like Tulsi Gabbard and Mike Gravel have really picked up in popularity. Yes, they're polling low, but from what they started with basically no name recognition at all. Somebody like Andrew Yang also. These people that are bringing more progressive policies to the table obviously have been rising, and then somebody like John Delaney has still not generated any energy behind his campaign. And the last thing I do want to say on the people like Tulsi Gabbard and stuff of that nature, there are progressive candidates, even in Elizabeth Warren's case as well, where if they were the only progressive candidate running, they would have so much more support than they do right now. But because I think most of the people on the left understand we have to be strategic about this, and you have to support the person who is the front runner for the policies that we have, and that would be Bernie Sanders. So I think you're seeing a lot of people that love Tulsi Gabbard or that really, really like Elizabeth Warren go and say, you know, I'm supporting Bernie Sanders because that's what I have to do. There's no chance of Tulsi Gabbard actually winning. And there's actually a chance of Elizabeth Warren winning, which is why her poll numbers are higher. But I think in Tulsi's case, you just kind of have most of the people saying, yeah, you know what, I love Tulsi Gabbard and I would love for her to be a VP candidate for Bernie Sanders or involved with Bernie Sanders' campaign in some way later down the line. But I have to throw my support behind Bernie Sanders right now, because if I really want these progressive policies to have a chance and to have a progressive Democratic nominee, then I probably just have to throw my support behind Bernie Sanders, who's far more popular at this point in time and has a real chance at cracking this nomination. In my opinion, the best chance. But I thought you guys would all be interested to see that. It's good news if you're progressive, because you don't want Joe Biden to win this. You obviously want somebody like Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. And Elizabeth Warren has been doing better in her polling recently. Bernie Sanders has been very steady, and I think he's going to take off even more once you get to the debates again. And then I think Joe Biden, you're already witnessing the decline. I don't think that trend is going to stop here.